If you're looking to break into Massacre from Nightmare, the Promenade is a great place to farm up some gear. I've got a build here that works with some weird DST placements that you can pull off with low stats from a Wave 24 start, but if you're starting from Wave 1, don't worry, I've got you covered for that too. Alright, let's get into what I'm talking about when I say low stats. On my Builder Apprentice, I'm going in with 1400 power, 700 for range and defense rate, and if it's relevant, I'm not exactly sure, 450 for boost. We will be boosting a stack of DSTs, no surprise there. My Trap Hunter's going in with 900 fortify, 1100 for power, and 600 for range and defense rate. Our Aura Monk is going to be at 800 fortify, 900 power, 700 range, and 600 defense rate. And finally, my Waller Squire going in with 1800 fortify. With the stats out of the way, let's jump into it. Alright, here's the plan. I'm going to go through the full build from a Wave 24 start, and then we're going to cut to a quick montage where I walk through how to set up the build during the build phases of Waves 1, 2, and 3. It'll be quick, but if you want to skip it, I'll have YouTube chapters set up for you to do that very easily. For our first two DSTs, I'm going to line them up with the right side of their aim, just barely hitting that torch. You'll see it, it'll turn yellow. So when I G up and I drop this first DST, that torch, I want that to just barely turn yellow, and that's going to be the right side of the aim for these first two DSTs. And then for the next two, I'm going to line them up with this black circle and this torch here. You'll see that when I aim these next two DSTs, the left side of their aim is going to line up with that wall, and you'll see that piece of the wall turn yellow with the left side of the aim on these two DSTs. If you're having trouble aiming, hold control and scroll your mouse wheel to turn the towers without turning your character. For the next two, I'm going to line up the right side of their aim with this little section of this gazebo here. Basically, I want the right side of the aim to just barely clear that closest pillar to you of that gazebo, right where I had the arrow pointing there, with the right side lining up at that spot on this little gazebo. Finally, the last two DSTs, the left side of their aim is going to line up with that pillar I was shooting. So we're going to drop these two, and the left side of their aim is going to go right there where that arrow is. The left side on these two DSTs just going to barely line up with that pillar right there. With the DST stack out of the way, let's head into the lanes and set up our traps, auras, and walls. Gonna start off with an explosive trap and then a gas trap right behind it, and then finally an inferno trap right next to those. Gonna swap it over to our squire and then drop a wall just inside the trigger range of our traps. Finally switching over to the monk and dropping an ensnare and a strength drain aura. I get this wall to level 5 and the strength drain to level 3, and the explosive trap I take to level 2. This wall is gonna take a beating, so it's smart to max it out and level up that strength drain aura as well. Swapping over to the hunter, we're going to drop an explosive trap and a gas trap right up at the spawn. Next up is going to be the monk, and we will drop an ensnare and a strength drain aura right here between this pillar and the gas trap. Next up is the apprentice, and I'm going to drop a flame burst tower on this pillar here, and I'm going to aim the left side of the aim of the tower at the middle of the spawn door so it doesn't clip the wall. And just to make sure they don't go down, I'm going to level the explosive trap and the strength drain aura 2 times each. Gonna head over to our next lane and of course start off with the legendary combo, the explosive trap and the gas trap right up at the spawn. Also gonna drop an inferno trap to help out with some fire damage in this lane, and then switch it over to the monk to drop an ensnare and a strength drain aura up against the corner of this wall. And just to make sure they stay healthy, we'll throw a level up on the strength drain aura and the explosive trap. Finally, we'll head on over to the last lane and we'll drop an explosive trap and a gas trap as close to spawn as possible. Next, we can drop a spike blockade lined up with the corner of this wall here on the left, and then we can flip on over to the monk and drop an ensnare and a strength drain aura on this lane as well. We're going to drop a level up on the explosive trap and then max out this wall and level the strength drain up to level 3. That'll complete the build. Head on over to your DST stack, drop a 1 DU wall, and throw a couple level ups on some DSTs with that extra mana. Coming up next, we'll look at how to build this out from Wave 1, but if you don't need to know that, feel free to skip to 6 minutes and 39 seconds. For Wave 1, it's pretty easy. We're going to drop the explosive, gas, and inferno traps down here. We'll head on over to drop an explosive and gas trap in the next lane, and then we can drop an explosive, gas, and inferno trap in this lane here, and finally we can head on over to the last lane to round out all 4 lanes and drop the gas and explosive trap as close to spawn as we can get them. And if you can kill the spiders yourself, don't sweat these traps, but if you can't or you don't want to, drop an explosive trap by this crystal and drop another one right here. Feel free to ride out wave 1 on your Huntress because it'll give a little bonus damage to your traps. Next, collect all the mana from wave 1, and then in wave 2 build the rest of the walls and auras, so you can basically finish the lanes with the mana you get from wave 2. Drop your Flame Burst Tower here, of course, and then your auras, and the rest of the auras and walls in the other lanes as well can go down. You'll have plenty of mana to do that, as well as 1 DST. Now, it's the first DST in the order that I laid them out for the Wave 24 build. Wave 2 does have a Copter Ogre, but your 1 DST will be plenty of firepower to take it out, no problem. It's the first DST from the Wave 24 build. We're lining it up with that torch, and you can G up on your Apprentice, no problem, to get the bonus damage, but you'll see that this Copter nearly gets one-shot by your DST anyway. It's really no sweat at all. The Ogre will make it to the map and get dropped, but it'll be with partial HP, and you'll see that the Ogre gets taken out. For me, it always got taken out before it even made it to the wall, so really no need to sweat this Ogre, but collect all the mana, sell off those explosive traps at the crystals, and finish out that DST stack. After which you can drop a 1 DU wall to use up that last DU, and you're done. For upgrade priority, make sure the walls are maxed out by wave 13 or so, and then upgrade the explosive traps and the strength drain auras, because you'll probably need to do that just to keep them on the map, but then everything else can fall after that, and that's all you'll need to get this build going for you from wave 1. Alright, back at wave 24. Now here's the thing, if your stats are better than mine, I'm going to be talking about a lot of specific times to overdrive your towers. If your stats are better, that's all out the window, do whatever you want, but at 1930 enemies or so, that's when I boost the first time, and that's going to help me take out the incoming Copter on the east there. Going to take him out well before he drops another Ogre onto the map, and I won't have to deal with that Ogre at all. Now there's going to be another Copter coming in on the north. As soon as it crosses that pink spot on the overlay map, that's when I overdrive my towers next, because I know I've got a Copter coming in on the east and west, and this will give me plenty of time to take them out with boosted DSTs. Again, if your stats are better, you're probably not going to have to worry about specific timing for overdrive on your towers. This is what got me consistent wins on the map doing it this way. Finally, I'm going to wait until these 2 Ogres actually make it to the walls, and then I'm going to overdrive my towers, and you'll see now why I had the DSTs pointed in such specific directions. It's because I need DSTs to focus these Ogres. Otherwise, they're just going to shoot whatever they feel like it, but by manipulating their range in a very specific way, now they are attacking the Ogres, because the Ogres are the closest thing to at least those 2 DSTs that are aimed to the far left, that aren't really targeting anything else because they have nothing else to target, so they're going to take out those Ogres, and it's going to stop them from being distracted and taking out other things that are less important. Basically, I'm manipulating what my DSTs target by aiming their range in a specific way. That's going to save my wall, essentially, and let me get away with doing this build with much lower stats than I would otherwise. Every time I experimented with the DSTs and how they were aimed, this wound up being the very best I could get, because I just needed 2 DSTs to be able to focus down those Ogres, which would keep the wall up for the wave, and then I'd be good to go. And in my testing, it was always wave 24 where I failed. If I ever made it to wave 25, I was always good. So it was a matter of getting these Ogres down in time. But once they're down, you have a little bit of a break, and then around 1,250 enemies left, you get another Ogre on this wall. Now this Ogre can end your run. If he gets through that wall, you're going to have a problem, and if you don't have your DSTs specifically targeting that Ogre, they're not going to shoot it. So if they need to be targeting that wall, they were swung way to the right, the DST's aim, so that they protect the wall above everything else. And the Ogres and the Dark Elf Warriors that are swarming it now too, they're getting targeted by those 2 DSTs, and that's all those 2 DSTs are shooting. That's plenty of firepower to take out those enemies and defend that wall to get you through wave 24. Again, if your stats are a lot better than mine, you're not going to have to worry about that as much. Your DSTs are going to hit a lot harder, so it may not be as big of a deal, but I found that this was optimal for getting through wave 24, and getting through wave 24 was the challenge, because once you make it to wave 25, you get so much mana that you can go nuts upgrading everything. Now, if you started from an earlier wave or wave 1, again, a lot of this may not apply because you're going to have higher level defenses and you're going to have your stuff maxed out. Your strength drain auras are going to be maxed out, so, you know, it's not going to be as big of a deal for you there. So why only that one flame burst in that one lane and not flame bursts in all of the other lanes? Flame bursts are better than inferno traps in terms of pure damage output, but that flame burst tower is the only one that never went down. I had flame bursts in many other lanes. In every other lane I had a flame burst at one point or two, and during my tests, that flame burst that I left up in the north lane, that's the only one that never went down, not even close. I had flame bursts in the southwest lane on the little ledge there. In the the northwest lane, I also had a flame burst on a ledge near the lane there too. And I had some flame bursts on the east lane on top of the pillars and stuff. And, you know, during some of the runs, they would go down, and I didn't want there to be a luck factor in your defenses staying up. I didn't want it to be a matter of luck whether or not they went down. So the flame burst that I'm using in this build, the one and only, that's the only one that never goes down. So once the wave is over, run around, collect the mana, and upgrade the stuff that's low. You know, I throw an upgrade on the auras and the explosive traps, and I pretty much repair everything else just for the heck of it. I throw an upgrade on the flame burst. Why not a little more damage? You know, you definitely want to upgrade these these strength drain auras because they lose their health fast. Now, another question you may have is, why not use darkness traps in those lanes where there are no walls? Because strength drain auras are really meant to protect walls. They reduce the damage that enemies deal to walls and other defenses. If there's nothing to be defended in that lane, what's the point of using a strength drain aura? Well, here's what happened in my testing. So darkness traps were inconsistent. Most of the time they were fine. Some of the time the reset timer let an enemy or two sneak through and hit the crystal. And not only hit the crystal, but generally they would destroy it. So on the northwestern lane, occasionally an orc would sneak through and make it down to the crystal and take it out. Occasionally on the north lane, an archer would make it through. An archer would make it through and take out one of the crystals. So when I replaced the darkness traps with strength drain auras, that stopped happening completely. I tested this specific build 6 times and I never had any problems, nothing. I never had a problem. That one flame burst never went down. That nothing ever made it through the lanes. I never had problems with the ogres taking the walls out as long as I boosted the DSTs properly. And this was the most consistent build. I tried so many different builds for this map, but this wound up being the one that came out on top. Now you're gonna see here that I'm basically doing the same thing for wave 25. All the mana that I had left over, I just dumped it into my DSTs. I prioritized the 4 DSTs on the eastern side that are specifically targeting ogres, but you know, you can throw it in however you like. It doesn't really matter that much. The general principle for wave 25 is going to be the same. You're mostly concerned with boosting your DSTs while there are ogres on the map, because you want those ogres to go down quickly, and the quicker they go down, the less damage your walls take. But you're going to see it's a night and day difference between wave 24 and wave 25. Those walls don't even come close to going down. Our strength drain auras are leveled up a little more. There's more damage in the DSTs because they're leveled up too. Wave 25 is so much easier than wave 24 because of all that extra mana you get. So, you know, this may have been easier starting from wave 22 or wave 23, but I wanted to just give the lowest stats possible for the quickest run possible, because this is going to be a great gear grind going into Massacre. And these are some low stats, so you're going to be able to come away with some pretty nice gear at the end of these runs. So when I design these runs and I'm setting things up, my thought is this is going to be for someone who doesn't have more than their 4 core builders with the lowest stats possible. So, you know, if your stats are higher, maybe you can get away with, you could use darkness traps instead of strength drain auras in those other lanes. And by all means, go ahead and do it. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what I do when I run this build with all of my stats, all of my gear on it and everything. And if you have a boost monk, your tower boost on your boost monk is going to be far better than your builder apprentice. If you have a DPS huntress, you're going to be able to take out those ogres yourself, and you can aim the DSTs in however of a pattern you like. You won't need to specifically use some of them to target the ogres. If you have a DPS huntress, you can take it out. You can take those ogres out yourself. If you have an EV, if you're watching this after 1.1, you could absolutely tweak some things, cut a few DU, and then have a buff beam on these DSTs, and then they'll be hitting crazy hard with even better range. Probably the easiest thing to do to get that 3 DU you would need for a buff beam out of this build would be to swap one of those Strength Drain auras in the non-ogre lanes for a Darkness Trap, and then swap that Flame Burst for an Inferno, and you'll still be good to go. That would give you 3 DU plus the one from the 1 DU wall. Boom, there's your buff beam right there. You can do tons and tons with this build, but I wanted to make it viable for the lowest possible effort. So the lowest stats that I tested that made the build consistent, and with only your 4 core builders, and I think this build is great for that. This build is sort of an amalgamation of a bunch of different builds that I saw from the build planner, from Juice Bags, Mini Shadow, Blind Faith Games did a video on this build, on this map, which was great, that I found really early on. Havrix, GG's did one too. So this was kind of a culmination of all of those builds. Big thanks to those guys too for the work they do. If you don't know who they are, check them out on YouTube and Twitch, Blind Face Games and Havrix. But yeah, there's a Transcendent Giraffe for you. I mean, you can get some great gear from this map. And I'm just going to flip through my stats again, just so you can see it's the same stats as I had in my tavern. But that's the build, that's the run. You know, try it out. Let me know what you think. If you have any ideas to tweak this and make it better, by all means, leave a comment, let me know. And if you're not on Twitch, hop on Twitch and check out the DDA community. There's a lot going on there. It's great. It's growing. Oh Night Pineberries is streaming again, which is awesome. He's an OG DD YouTuber. Check him out on Twitch too, as well as Havrix, GG's, and Blind Faith Gaming, and Mr. Maniac is another one. So yeah, hop on over to Twitch and check out the DDA scene there as well. And with that, that'll do it for me. Thank you so much for watching.